Welcome to Thought Crime, baby.
Rated PG for parental guidance suggested.
And this is
Thought Crimes.
Welcome to Thought Crimes. I am Prince motherfucking Solomon in the building here with
Sincere Ignorance.
Okay, so word on the street, the digital street, is that Yachty's new album Teenage Emotion sucks, correct?
Correct, you know,
right.
and I have to concur, but I guess we'll get into my opinion and your opinion a little bit later. But yeah, there's a lot of people online saying they feel the album sucks, and Lil Yachty doesn't appreciate that. He feels that it's just some of it is just people who don't like him, or maybe there's, you know, a lot of media headlines of clickbait to him personally to hurt his album sales. But 21 tracks of terror is how I feel.
Okay, so he feels that somehow this is a hit piece on him. He thinks thinks people are moving against him. Well, what Yachty has to understand is this: from the transition of his previous album, which I did not listen to the transition of this album, I had a chance to skim through and listen to tracks on there. It is pretty damn hefty at 21 fucking tracks, as you stated. At this stage, for the most part, that's an opens for a lot of people. So when you have like somebody on the likes of Kanye West or Kendrick Lamar, J. Cole, even J. Cole had condensed his album recently, the For Your Eyes Only joint, even though, you know, he had mixed reviews from a lot of people. Here's the thing, listening to the fucking album, as far as people saying it officially sucks, it sounds just like the standard of most of the shit that's out right now. That's how I feel about it. No, this is how I feel about it.
I don't know if I would go that far.
I'm going to say this. Let me say this.
The standard that's out of general music out right now?
In rap music right now, if you're talking about a lot of the shit that's out right now, what I've heard from those tracks so far, if we're not talking about in the fucking space of a J. Cole or a Kendrick Lamar, or even to the degree of what the Migos offered on their Culture album, if we're talking about the subpar motherfuckers that are performing under that level, that shit coincides right then and there.
That's not that many people though.
So
if you're talking about under the level of Migos,
but this is 21 tracks, and this is what is irritating people. You're talking about 21 tracks consistently of the subpar norm.
Yes, it's garbage. I understand that,
because his previous album was shorter.
Yeah.
Okay.
Janet Period was about 21 tracks, and that's a classic.
That is a completely different
saying,
direction to go in, Sincere.
I'm
saying to Janet Period from Yachty.
I want people to think about that. Janet Period was 21.
It was a dope album, though.
Yeah, that's what I'm making a point. Janet Period was about 21 tracks, and that album was hot versus 21 tracks of garbage. I don't know how
there's a lot of garbage shit out there right now.
But I would not say he's the general market though.
Have you seen what was going on with Dat Piff? Have you seen what was going on with Hip Hop DX artists that dropping these shitty ass singles? It's a lot of motherfuckers out there.
Shitty ass singles though. We're talking about albums right now. We're talking about someone that has an album that's going to be talked about and actually critiqued on mainstream platforms, on artsy platforms, all that. I would not say he's the general, because the only couple of people that can possibly get that much buzz when their album's coming out, even if it flops, maybe a 21 Savage. But actually,
you don't think he's in that space with them niggas? 21 Savage. Would you listen to 21 tracks? If 21 Savage did a track listing and it was like 18 tracks,
I wouldn't listen to two tracks with him.
So, but I'm just saying,
I wouldn't listen to an EP or a mixtape.
He fits in that space.
But that's what I'm saying.
That's
21
the space.
Savage. But 21 Savage and Lil Yachty are not the general though.
If you're talking about a subpar norm that has been set right now
norm.
in hip hop, did you hear what I said?
Not the norm in album
keyword subpar norm. See, the reason why I bring this up, I bring this up for a reason. If people are bitching about Yachty now, right? They're bitching. It's like, oh, it's 21 tracks of trash.
Yeah.
Right?
Worst album of the year.
Goddamn. But anyway, before the whole Joe Budden situation, right, where he was able to get, you know, in front of the audience on Everyday Struggle, and in a sense he was able to be humanized because he, you know, was engaging. People's like, oh, he's a kid, right? He's a
19
kid.
Years old.
Yeah, that's what everybody's like. Oh, he's a kid. You know, they acted like he was in a wheelchair or some shit. You know, even though Rakim recorded, you know, Paid in Full at 17. You know, Nas did Illmatic at like 18 and 19. So everybody's defense was the reason why his shit sucks. Excuse him, he's a kid right now, right? Now, here's my thing about this.
I don't think that's what a lot of people were going after. I think it was like, even though he sucks, we should give him space to make money because of the whole.
Well, there was a lot of people. There was a lot of people that was saying they were using that to shield themselves or shield Yachty from legit musical critique.
They were talking about his musical knowledge.
So even if you took, well, that coincides with it though. So that coincides with it because his whole thing was Biggie and Tupac suck. You know.
What do you mean he was trolling?
Yeah, so when you say these things, so when people was like, well, you know, listen to the quality of your music, you would learn to, even if you're not about Biggie and Tupac, you know, at least structure your verses a little stronger, at least sound like you're trying. So my whole thing is this. It was a bit of an enabling mentality when it came to Yachty.
I agree with that.
So now that he has been enabled, and for the most part, people backed off him, especially when they saw old angry Joe Budden snapping on him in front of everybody. So that really had a lot of people like, "Yo, leave."
For about the first 10 minutes.
Yeah, they was like, "Leave him alone," right?
Yeah.
So now the album comes forward, and some of the people that had been making these claims and criticisms of him earlier, you know, now this is still showing a pattern in his musical approach. My question to everybody. What were you going to expect now? Because I think they're going to be hypocritical if they're going to try to have this wave of like it's the worst album of the year when there were certain people in the culture that weren't necessarily attacking Yachty personally, but they were saying the music is not of standard. So now we're at this point where now people are saying, okay, see, this is the worst album of the year, but again, this is kind of that, you know what I'm saying?
I really have to say something here. I don't think he's the general standard though when it comes to hip hop music. He's in a small percentage if we're talking about 21 Savage. If we're gonna be like the Migos, they're not of course, you know, a J. Cole anything or a Kendrick Lamar, but they at least can put out some quality tracks and they're mediocre but not atrocious, you know. Or we could put Future in that. Those are people who really sell, and that will be, I would say that would be like the lowest form of the general music that comes out.
Now that's subjective.
But I'm not talking about even being subjective. I'm talking about looking at the albums that have come out and those that have done well, or the music that's in people's track list, like as an album.
So would you hold on? So would you say
it wasn't? I don't really see a.
So would you say an
album of 21 Savage or
you would say an album doing well for you personally?
No, I'm saying those people are more single driven. They don't like. We're talking about the general consensus of hip hop. People who are decent to really good, even though I know a lot of people who are really good sometimes don't get the love and support they deserve. But if we're talking about in general, I think those will be the two things that ping pongs off of. When I see someone like Yachty, and how subpar that album is, like really bad, that's
it again. To me,
that's not like
I think you get in a dicey space when you say that. I do, because there's some people. Future has been the butt of a lot of jokes, even though some people may say, you know what, the flute joint he had recently, Dirty Sprite 2, Dirty Sprite 2.
Yeah.
Some people, like, when I listened to Dirty Sprite 2, it was my cup of tea. I said, oh, it's a dope album. But there were people that was like, they were looking at Future like they were looking at a Yachty, because it didn't come from a spectrum of, you know, the super lyrical space that they're used to.
The difference would be, though,
and the reason why I say this, I was saying here in this situation, I personally felt that people had, there was a legitimate gripe if you're talking about some of the things that was going on with Yachty, and even to some extent with Future, who has admitted, you know, at times he's not saying anything.
That's fine, but we're talking about what is the general senses in music right now, right?
Well, that's the argument that you're looking to stand on.
Yeah, I don't think he's the norm, though. That's the problem. I think.
Well, the norm in a particular space of rap. Now, I'm not talking about all-encompassing of hip-hop. I'm talking about any particular space of rap that we're dealing with right now.
But are they selling, though? The point is, the majority of them don't sell. They do well when they find a fan base. They do well in touring.
In streaming, he does sell in streaming. He does numbers in streaming.
Singles. But even their album streaming wise haven't been strong. You had Drake album streaming been strong. Kendrick album streaming been strong, and also hard copies. The same thing with J. Cole. Even though, like you said, some people felt that For Your Eyes Only was sleepy.
Yes.
You had Logic do well on both ends, even though I know people said second week sales
80%
fell off
to 90%
huge drop. Yeah,
huge drop. Yes,
but and then you have people who just have done really well that people just weren't paying attention to. So, but they haven't been though like a Yachty or 21 Savage.
And they never will be.
Like Yachty, when we were talking about his last album, what the Minnesota drive me a stunner, that single did it very well for him. You know, but the album, you know, and this, I don't know, maybe there will be a single that will do really well on there, though. But the album, though, is trash, and I don't think a lot of people are really going to be buying it.
Well, I think in this situation, and again, this was a bit of the enabling syndrome that we've seen historically sometimes in rap music. The reason why the standardization is not akin to that of jazz, or if you're talking about blues, if you're talking about rock and roll, where there is a rigid standard, right? So with Yachty, a couple things happen with Yachty that he has to understand. He has more visibility now because of certain things that have taken place online, where, you know, maybe even though the single did well from that first album, you know, still initially, like, there was people I knew, like I told a partner of mine, you know, he was like, he didn't know who Yachty was at first. He just heard the song. But when he saw him, and then he saw some of the antics online from between that first album to that second album, Yachty was able to get more people to see him. And especially, again, when you have situations like the gaffe that took place at the beginning of the Joe Budden and DJ Academic interview, doesn't mean it's going to translate into sales, as we both agree here, right? So when people see all of this, like this buzz about you online, or this seemingly controversy, then it was like, oh, okay, well, let me check the album out then.
And another thing,
so when they go to the album and it's not meeting a standard for them, and they're like, what it is, and then again, 21 tracks.
That's too long.
That's a lot.
He should only had 10 tracks.
21 tracks.
Try to put the best music he can, get together, and just put out 10 tracks. You know, 21 tracks is atrocious. Like, come on, dude, stop it. But I also want to make one point that's very important. When it comes to the Migos and when it comes to Future, the people that criticize them and criticize that particular music listens to them. That's a very important thing to know. Because someone could be like, yo, yeah, Future suck, I don't really understand, but they're listening to him. The difference with Yachty, the people that criticize him don't listen to him.
I actually disagree. I disagree. I really do. I actually disagree, because there are people that do criticize Future and they don't listen to him. There are a lot of people that listen to Migos and they love them, but then there's people that listen to Migos or heard the Migos 1 or 2 times and they don't fuck with the music. I'm serious about that.
We're
That's
not
why
talking about people who listen to their entire album. When I'm talking about people who criticize them, they do be listening to their singles. The people that I've heard criticize Yachty, zero. They don't like nothing about him. They don't listen to none of his singles. Like, you can have like the dead end hip hop crowd. You can have even the people we see on Facebook and stuff. I've seen them. They talk about those two, that one group, Migos, and that one artist, Future. But they're singles that they really like from those people, right? With Yachty, I've never seen anyone who actually criticized him and be like, but I like this song, or I like those songs, or I like that particular mixtape. I haven't heard that.
One thing, what I will concede with you on, I concur with you on that the dislikability factor of Yachty is much higher than those artists. But I have seen people legitimately criticize Migos. I've seen them criticize Future. I've seen them criticize Young Thug, and they don't fuck with their music. That's what I'm saying. Like, I do see that. But I will say this with you, I definitely agree with you on, is the dislikability factor of Yachty is much higher, where, you know, even, you know, for a guilty pleasure, people can't even find nothing appealing about him.
Exactly. There's no guilty pleasure with Yachty. With Future and with Migos, there is. Whether they don't like them or not, they might like the song Bad and Bougie. You know, they may like Mask Off, or they may like Dirty Sprite 2, or some tracks from Dirty Sprite 2. With Yachty, it's like even with Young Dolph or the Young Black Gangster, who I don't like. Black Youngster, sorry.
Yes.
Even with like some of those guys I don't like, but there'll be people, they be like, oh, I like one song. I literally for Yachty, I haven't heard people like that be like, I'm into that one song from him.
I've seen his folks online. There's people that fuck with his music. I think.
Well, I'm not talking about the people that fuck with his music. Different. I'm talking about people who
and there's people that would
disagree.
There was people, they did have that moment with him with the boat. The what is it? The Minnesota joint.
The Minnesota song.
Yeah, you know, and he's got a happy, corny, campy feel about him that, you know, some people dig into. But I think I just feel like the dislikability factor about Yachty is so damn high, and then another thing I did, you know, when we was listening to those tracks, you gotta also take in mind too, if you're gonna juxtapose them to other artists that I feel resonate within that space but not as bad. But you gotta factor in guys like Mike Will Made It. You gotta factor in guys like Metro Boomin. You have to factor in guys like Zaytoven. And Yachty, he's not consistently making, at least if you're gonna talk about that post-trap energy, it's not an adult, mature form of post-trap energy.
Have the voice.
Yeah, because
to work with that type of
because
music.
if you listen to this and then you compare it to Dirty Sprite 2, it has, at least for the feel of it, it seems a little bit more mature. The thing about Yachty, a lot of his shit seems really kiddie.
But that's the thing he needed to stick with, is that lullaby stuff. Now he's trying to be more edgy, even more explicit. It just doesn't work with him. He needs to stay on the Minnesota thing, and he might be able to sway a lot more people. That's actually where he shines in, even though I still don't personally like it, but I can see how that could get stuck in people's head. And also, yeah, like the other people, I feel it from people. You know, they say they don't like Future, they say they don't like this person. They're in the club listening to it, knocking with it. They're working out and they're listening to Migos and Future, even if they don't like to listen to it while they're sitting in their home. But when they're working out, they're listening to that. I don't see people working out listening to Yachty, you know. Yeah, so I just think that even though we're talking about a pool of mediocre people, he's the least talented among those people.
Which is why his dislikability factor is very high. And that's the thing. I felt like artists like, you know, legends in the game like a Knife Wonder was kind of overlooking a little bit. It was like, I understand where you're coming from, but you got to give the people something to work with. It's like when it's kind of like, tying in a little bit to the end of it here. You know, if an artist is not compensating the fans to at least to level off on the controversy, at least give them something to run with. So what I'm saying here, though, the album, you know, we listened to it. It's
forgettable.
It's far too long for that type of mediocrity. I'm just being honest with you. One thing we could say, at least some of these other guys, they did know when to cut off, or they made sure they stuck with one producer that understood them well, so there was a synergy there.
It's like Rick Ross. You know, I know that lyrically Rick Ross is not on their level. He's higher, but there were people who really didn't like Rick Ross. There people, I'm not listening to that music, saying he sucked. Then all of a sudden they start listening to a couple of singles. They're like, you know what? This guy's actually dope. You know, I don't like some of the stuff he's talking about, or I didn't like some singles I heard before, but I'm rocking with him now. That's the appeal Migos and Future has. Yachty has none of that.
Oh no, the reason why no, this is what I'm saying about Migos and Future. Again, I've seen a lot of people. I have no problem with Migos or Future, but I have made posts on my Facebook. I don't care if the guys. My own little brother got at me one time about a joint I posted from the Migos. He said, "Yo, man, I can't believe you fucking with that music. You need to get up on this Kendrick Lamar, blah blah blah." I said, "Well, in the market, you know, everybody can. You know, we're in a space where you can hear everybody. You know what I'm saying? So what I'm saying is like." You do have those people in hip hop that are, you know, criticizing them and even throwing them all in the same space under the guise of the mumble rap, right? Because it's like you cannot put Migos in the same spot as far as mumble rap goes. They actually, you can hear every time, you can understand their lyrics. You can't put them in that space. You have an angry set, an angry population in rap music that they will look at Yachty, they'll look at Migos, they'll look at Future and Designer, and in their head, they put them all in the same space when you can't. The dislikability factor about this little boy here is so damn high, and his music is not even compensating and letting that, you know, to level off. So overall, at 21 tracks in, it's a trash album. I'll just be honest with you. I mean, the mediocrity is too damn high. It's too damn high. So should have cut some of that off, or should have made it a mixtape. You got any final thoughts on this, or?
Nope, trash album.
All right.
And everybody else, let us know what you think.
Okay, of course, this is your boy Prince Solomon.
And this your girl Sincere.
Peace.
I saw the check, nigga. Huh?
What's
Go to our Patreon for more. And don't bother me.